Hey there, welcome to my channel. My name is Sean, and in today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you the process that I use to make my boxy bags with French seams. So I'm going to be showing you everything step by step except the quilting. Now I am going to slide in a quick clip showing you how I quilt the bag, but we're not going to go through the whole process of quilting the bag. So I'll slide that in there after this, before we go over, or right when we go over to the next room, to my sewing room. So I'm going to show you how I quilt the bags. We're also they're gonna have the tabs, the zipper tabs on each side, as well as the handle. The handle is optional. It's something you don't have to do. I just feels like it adds like a little extra touch, and especially if you're using these for travel. I just like to grab mine and go, put it in my suitcase or whatever. And so on the inside, I am going to be showing you how to do a French seam, which gives you a really, really clean finish. And also you don't have to worry about sewing the bottom of the bag closed. And I'm going to show you how I'm able to achieve that using this method. So let me get this out the way, and I'm gonna go over the supplies. So when it comes to templates, I've worked with my templates over like the last, I want to say 5 or so months, and I got the sizes that I need, or the sizes that I feel is perfect for my customers that they like best. And so I finally, once I got my sizes together, I got my templates cut in acrylic, because my paper templates were just going through it. They was ripping, I was cutting them, it was too much. So I got my templates in acrylic. I am so excited. Now, there are 2 ways to make these bags. The way I'm going to show you is going to be a easier way, and you'll be able to use just a regular zipper. With this template here, like today we're going to do the large one. So with this template here, normally it is faster. If I'm quilting it, I will just go ahead and I will only have to quilt 1 panel instead of 2 separate panels, and I'll show you that in a second. So with this panel, I also use zipper tape or zipper by the yard. I know a lot of people don't like to use zipper tape because sometimes getting those zipper pulls on there is a pain, but this just makes it so much faster for me. So once I quilt the bag, if I have to quilt the bag, it only takes me about 18 minutes with this particular template to fully assemble the bag and be done with it. Okay, and now I am going to be offering 3 different sizes. So I will have a small, medium, and a large size for the boxy bags. So the way we're going to do it today is using my original template before I got my acrylic templates for the larger pattern. So we're going to be using just this template, and you could just measure and cut. I just like to have templates. It just makes it easier, and I always end up cutting my paper templates or my paper patterns. And so we're going to be using this size, which is, let me measure this. I keep forgetting what size this is. This is 15.5 by 11.5. So that's the size that you will need to cut your fabric. 15.5 for your length, and your height 11.5. Okay, and again, this is going to be for a large boxy bag. It's going to be around like 10 by 5 by 5 ish, right around there. Okay, and then I also have my panel for my tabs, which this one is 5 by 3, and I'm going to put all these measurements in the description box. And then my handle, and the handle is 8 by 3.5. So your tabs, your handles, and then your panel piece. Now with the panel, you're going to have to cut 2 lining pieces and then your 2 main panel pieces, so your 2 fabric pieces. So I already have my lining already cut. I've already put my interfacing on there, and I'm going to talk about interfacing in just a moment. I've also already quilted both of my panels with batting. And I'm going to talk to you about the different types of batting that I use as well. And again, I'm going to insert that quick quilting tip or video before we actually assemble the bag. You'll need a zipper. If you're using a standard zipper, I would suggest getting it longer. It will make it easier so you don't have to move the zipper pull as you're sewing, and then we'll eventually cut it down to size. I like zipper tape because I'm able to measure it right where I need it and then just put my zipper pull on once I'm finished. But again, not everybody likes zipper tape. And let me just show you exactly what zipper tape is. Just seeing if I had some here, and I do. Okay, so this is zipper tape. It's basically zipper by the yard. So this is a continuous roll, and it has no pull on there. So you actually have to, if I can separate it. Okay, so I can't separate it. Oh, there we go. And you separate it and you put your zipper pull on there. And I really like zipper by the yard because you can get some really cute zipper pulls that you can put on your bags. But I also do the standard regular zippers as well, so you don't have to have zipper by the yard. All right, so now that we got that out the way, and let me finish going over the supplies. All the measurements will be in the description box. You'll need some pins or some wonder clips. You'll need some scissors, rotary cutter, some type of fabric marker or heat erasable pen. And I'm going to be using this little here square ruler. This is what I use to box my corners when I'm using this particular method to make my bags. When I'm using the larger template that I just showed you, the corners are already cut on that one. So and that's why it also is a lot faster, because I'm eliminating about 2 steps, maybe 3. I know for sure 2 steps that I completely eliminate. So that's why it makes it so much faster. But otherwise, you can just measure out when you're cutting out a square of 2 by 2, or I do mine's 1 3/4, but you can do it rounded up. Just do a 2 by 2 if you want to. All right, and let me show you the batting. So this is the batting that I like to use, the Poly-Fil, the 100% polyester. I have a lot of this. Whenever Michael's has a coupon in the app where if you order online and pick up in store, right now I think it's at 30%. And when I catch it at 40 or 50%, I will get a bunch of these and go pick them up. So Poly-Fil, I like using that one. And I just recently started using foam. I'll have a link for these in the description box, but this is the Pelin Flex foam, and so I really like this. And it's one side adhesive, so it's not a double side adhesive, just one side has the adhesive on there, so you can iron it to your fabric so it doesn't shift. So I really like that about this. And it also, I did this bag here with the foam. And then I did this bag here with the Poly-Fil. So you're still going to get the same look. I feel like the foam gives it more of a puff type of effect or look to it, but you still get a nice bag regardless of either one that you use. And so as you can see, and let me try and do a close-up here, so you can kind of see the difference there. All right, so I'm gonna put those off to the side, put this off to the side, and now we get to start assembling our bag. And let me turn my iron back on because I've already pressed my handle piece, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. We're just gonna fold it in thirds, or fold it in half and then fold it in fold it again. I'll show you that. So I already did the handle. And what we're going to do with both the handle and the tab, we're just going to stitch down both sides of it. And then once we're ready to insert it to the bag at that point, I will show you. Now I have my tabs piece, and so we're going to take it and we're going to fold it in half and iron, so we'll have a crease. So I'm just going to take it, fold it up, make sure it's lined up. And then I'm going to just go right over it. And so now you're going to have a nice crease in there, if you can see that. Okay, and then now we're going to take half of it and fold it to that crease line and iron that. So fold it in half and then fold it right to that crease line. Don't go over the crease line. You want to just go right up to it. And I'll show you in just a sec. So right there. So now we have another fold. And then now we're going to fold the bottom part or the other side up to that same line, that same crease, and just make sure they don't overlap. And then we're just going to iron this down. This is the same way if you're going to do the handle that you would also iron the handle as well. And then once we have all our pieces together, so we had our piece looking like this, and then we did that crease in the center, then we folded it down to the crease, and then we folded the other half, and now we're going to fold it over. So those raw edges should be on the inside. And I'm just going to iron that down. And that's how your piece should look. So your raw edges should be on the inside when you fold it. All right, and then we'll do the same with this one. We're going to just do a stitch down both sides. And I have a clip right here. I'm just clip it just to hold it in place. All right, and now we are going to start to assemble the bag here, and then we're going to move over to the sewing room so we can get this all assembled in together. So first, we're going to start by taking the main piece of fabric. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, I forgot about interfacing. And it's right here in my face. That's why I left it there. So I use two types of interfacing for the lining. So I use, this is a heavyweight, and I also like a medium weight fusible fleece. So these are the two that I use for my bags. It depends. If I'm using the foam, I normally like to use the medium weight. If I'm using the Poly-Fil, I like to use the heavyweight. So depending on which type of batting or foam that I'm using, or if I'm even quilting it, then now if I'm not quilting it, I would use the heavyweight on the main panel and then the medium weight on the lining panel. That way your bag will still have a nice structure and it won't just slouch down as soon as you finish making it. So, and I'll put all of that in the description box as well. Okay, so now we can assemble our bag. I'm gonna take out a couple clips here. And so we want our main panel face up. We want it pretty side facing up. Our zipper, we want the right side of the zipper, where the zipper teeth, where the zipper pull is, we want that facing down. So the zipper is going to be facing the right way on the main panel. And then you just want to line that up right on the edge. And then you're going to take your lining pretty side and you're going to put it down. So your main panel is going to be pretty side up. Your lining panel is going to be pretty side facing the main panel. So pretty sides together, okay? And I'm just gonna grab clips, or you can use pins if you prefer. I'm just gonna grab my clips here, and I just need to just pull my panel down a little bit, and I'm just making sure everything is lined up. You're gonna sandwich this together. Now, if you were doing ribbon, like I did in the bag that I just showed you, you would, if I can get this open, I'm gonna show you, well, try to show you. So if you wanted to add say I wanted to add a piece of ribbon to this bag, before I even do this step, I would put this on the main panel, and then I would put my zipper on top. So it'd be pretty side of the fabric up, pretty side of the ribbon up, and then the zipper still with the teeth facing the pretty side of the main panel. So I know I had someone ask me about that in the comments, so I just wanted to throw that in there. All right, so back to assembling, well, starting to assemble the bag, and I'm just lining everything up, and I am gonna, did move my zipper a little bit, so let me readjust. And for those that's watching this tutorial, this is going to be a little bit longer tutorial just because there are more steps involved. But once you get the hang of it and you kind of get into your flow, you can crank out these bags in a good, during this method, in about a good 35 minutes. So just keep practicing at it and you will get faster. All right, and then let me just make sure everything here is lined up. And I'm just clipping everything down. You can put as many or as few clips as you want. I just put one on each end and then one in the center, and usually that works for me. So this is how we're looking. We have that is our lining panel. We have our main panel, and then a zipper. So it should, your bag right now should look like this. You should have your main panel. The zipper teeth should be facing towards the main panel, and then you're going to have your lining panel. All right, so now we are going to go ahead, head over to the sewing room. I'm going to take all this stuff over there so I don't have to run back and forth between rooms, and we are going to get this bag put together. So let's go over to the sewing room. All right, so we are now at the machine, and I also have this seam guide here. This, I did have to purchase this foot with the seam guide separately. I did get this from Amazon, so I will link it below. I'm going to link the one for Juki, but I'm sure you can find it for your machine if you just type in seam guide and the name of your machine. Okay, so what I normally do is I'm gonna go ahead and let my foot up, and where I mark that line on my batting, that's what I'm gonna use as my guide to do my first line and to do a stitch just right down the center. That's going to hold the fabric in place besides the pins I put on the sides, so it doesn't shift or move as I'm doing my channel stitches. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just run that first one down. All right, and then we have that first stitch there, and then now I'm just gonna go and I'm going to move my, adjust my guide a little bit. I gotta get my screwdriver because I want to move it over just a tad bit. Just trying to see. Yeah, so I'm actually gonna do mine at 1.5 inches. Okay. So now I would use this seam guide, and actually let me bring you around to this side so you can get a closer view to see how the seam guide is even used. All right, so I wanted to give you a better view. So again, this is a seam guide. It's just attached to the back of my foot here. And so now that we did our first stitch, then we're just going to line the seam guide up with that stitch. So that's what it is for. And once I have that lined up, now I'm just going to follow that and then just continue making my design. And I'm just doing a channel stitch. I'm not doing a diamond stitch or anything like that. And just take it straight down. And same thing. Then I'm just going to go ahead and keep doing this over and over until I am finished. And then I will meet you back over at the table to show you the next steps. Okay, let's do this. So I got all my stuff, well, most of it moved over here. And so let's go ahead and get started. Now, you should use a zipper foot for this part of making the bag. So if you have a zipper foot, I would suggest putting that on now. My foot, especially for this particular seam gauge that I bought, and honestly, I don't even need the seam gauge on here, but my foot is very narrow, so I don't always switch out my foot when I'm making these bags, but I would suggest that you do it. I know like on my finger machine, the foot is a little bit wider than what this one is, so I definitely have to switch it out on that machine. But again, I'm not going to switch mine out because I don't need to, but do that. Okay, so I like to sew with the zipper teeth showing up, so I can make sure I have my needle, you know, everything lined up where it needs to be, and I can see those zipper teeth. So I'm just going to move my clip down a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and position right. And with me not changing to zipper foot, I just actually, it's lines up right on the edge, so it's actually perfect. So at least, you know, I like the amount of distance that it is away from the zipper once the bag is completed. So I just line mine up with the edge of my foot, and then I just use that as my guide while I'm sewing down the length of the zipper. And so I'm just going to go ahead, and you do want to do a back stitch for this part, and then I'm just going to go down and I'm going to move my clips as I go, and I'm just making sure my foot is still lined up. You know, with this batting, you can't see the zipper, but I just like to keep my finger right on the zipper as I'm sewing, so I'll know where that zipper is and that my needle is not in danger of hitting it. Because if you hit your zipper teeth with a needle, it's most likely going to break your needle. So this part, once you get comfortable, you know, or until you get comfortable, take your time and just sew the length of your bag, feeling for that needle. If you're not quilting your bag and you're just using fabric, you can kind of see, well, not see through it, but you can kind of see the print of the needle teeth, not the needle teeth, the zipper teeth, and you know, it'll be a little bit easier, but I just feel it and go for it. And then when you get to the end, we are going to back stitch as well. All right, and so that part is finished. I'm just gonna grab my snips and get the thread and just snip that off. Actually, there we go. Okay, and then I'm gonna do the same at the other end. All right. So now your bag is going to look, when you open it up, your bag should look like this. Okay. So this is how you want your bag to look. Your zipper teeth should be facing upward, okay? If it's not, and your zipper teeth are the wrong way, this is where you want to pull out your seam ripper and go ahead and take it apart and start over, okay? But make sure that this is how your zipper is looking. Your main panel, your zipper, and that is how the lining. So I'm just going to move this out the way, and I am going to press mine. And actually, let me turn my ironing board. I don't have a whole lot of room on this table, but we're going to make it work because I didn't want to keep going back and forth to the other room. Okay, so I kind of like to first do just like a finger press just to make sure everything's going in the right direction, press everything down. And I even like to make sure I pull that main panel and make sure that's all the way down too. Okay, and once I'm good, then I'll go ahead and just press across. And so just pressing down that seam, this will make it easier for when you do your top stitching. All right, and then I'm also going to press on the opposite side. And again, just pressing that down just for when we do our top stitch. All right, so now we're ready to put the rest of it together. So this time we're going to put the lining piece on the bottom. So you want the lining piece, the pretty side of the lining piece, facing the pretty side of the lining piece. So you want your fleece or the wrong side of your fabric should be down, the pretty side should be up. And we are going to line that up right at the top of the zipper. You're not going to line it up with the rest of the bag. You're going to line it up from this top part of the zipper here, okay? And I'm just going to get that all lined up. Then I'm also looking at the sides of my bag to make sure everything there looks good. And then now we're going to put our main panels together. And again, we're lining it up at the top of the zipper, not where the bag is, where we just currently stitched the bag to the zipper. We're going to make sure it's at that top. And so I'm going to go ahead and line that up. And once I have it where I need it, then I'm going to go ahead and grab 3 clips and clip my center and then my ends. And I'm just double checking as I'm clipping them together. And then my other end. And then clipping that one together. So your bag is going to look like this now. Okay, so you're going to have your main pieces of fabric facing each other, and then you're going to have your lining pieces facing each other, and they should be clipped onto the zipper in this direction, and then the lining. Okay, so let's roll back over. And let me add one more clip here for when I remove this first one to put it under the foot, nothing will shift. So it's gonna look a little bit like your bag is uneven at the bottom. That's how it's supposed to look right now. So that is completely fine. All right, so I'm gonna just remove that first clip, get my foot adjusted where it needs to be. And same process, we're gonna start off with a back stitch, and then we're just gonna go on down our zipper, get that sewn together. And again, I'm just feeling for that zipper, making sure that because I didn't use my zipper foot, that nothing hits my needle, because we do not want to break any needles. And you're just going to sew right down the end to the end, and then we're also going to do a back stitch at the end. Alrighty, and same process, clip any loose threads, and I'm just gonna clip them into my garbage can. I have thread all over the floor in here that I have to clean up every day. And then I'm just snipping on both sides. All right, now when you open your bag, it should look like this. Okay, so we are making progress. We are getting there slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. All right, so same process. I'm gonna go ahead and, without burning myself with this iron, because I got it in a weird spot, so I'm just gonna kind of finger press, and then I'm gonna go ahead and iron my bag. And then now we are going to do our top stitch. And I'm also going to flip this over and make sure everything is flat. And there, we are good to go there. Now, so your bag is going to look like this, and then here is the inside of the bag. Now we are going to do a top stitch, so just right along the edge. You can kind of put it to where your liking is. I just kind of do mine just a little bit past the edge. I want to say not quite 3/8, but, and then I don't have on my zipper foot, so I just line mines up with the end, with my part of my foot here. So the center part where you can see it, I have that left part right on the edge. So then my needle can go right exactly where I need it to go, or as far as where I want my top stitch to be. So we're also going to back stitch. And then I'm just gonna carefully follow on down the bag. And take your time when you're doing your top stitch so it is straight. It looks uniform on and even on both sides. So you don't have to rush through this part. Just take your time. I've seen where people decide not to top stitch, and your zipper could catch the fabric, you know, so there's a number of reasons why you want to do a top stitch, and that number one reason is being so when the bag is being opened and closed, it doesn't get caught and then in the fabric. And then back stitch at the end. All right, and I got that right up on the edge. I'm gonna try and see if I can get close enough so you could see how close I stitched to the edge. Okay, so now I'm just going to turn it around, and then I'm just kind of tugging at my layers together, making sure they're both, you know, nice and flat. Even though I did just press it, I still like to kind of pull and just make sure everything is good and straight and together. All right, and we're going to do the same thing, back stitch, and then just take your time and just go down that seam. And if you're using your zipper foot, just line it up the same way, or line it up to your liking. I want to say the same way, but just line it up to your liking. You don't have to sew as close to the edge as I do. If you want to have that top stitch a little bit further away, you can do that. All right, and then once we finish this, then we'll go on to piecing our bags together so we can get ready to box our corners. Okay, so now top stitch, everything looks nice and neat and uniform, which is what I like. And so now we're going to do our tabs, or this is the part where I like to do my tabs. So, and let me get my scissors. And so for the tabs, once you have everything folded, and I almost forgot, let me go ahead and stitch this around real quick, and I'm also going to go ahead and stitch my handle. So I'm just going to do a straight stitch down each side really quick. And you don't have to back stitch because we're going to stitch it into the bag, so a back stitch isn't necessary. All right, then I'm just line that up. And then I'm gonna just go ahead and do the handle as well, one less step, and that I'll have to do once we get to that point. All right, and last side, then we can do our tabs. And again, this process, once you get it down, it'll be a lot faster, but because I am explaining it to you step by step, I'm trying to give you as much detail as possible. It may seem like it takes longer than it does initially. If you've never done one before, your first couple is going to take you a little bit of time. And then once you get your flow going, you'll be able to kind of pick up your pace. And then you can estimate how long it truly takes you to make the bag. And I'm just cutting off the thread here. All right. So I'll just set that handle over there, and then now back to where we were. So we're gonna, once we stitched our handle, we're just gonna go ahead and fold it in half. So we're just going to take it in half like that, and then I'm just going to grab my scissors and just cut right through there. So now we have our two tabs. And for this is where we are going to adjust our zipper to the right size. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clip my tab. So I took it and just fold it in half again. And then I'm just going to center it on my bag, and you can look at it and see if there's a certain side that you prefer, you know, to have it on, or if there's a design or something, you can kind of look at that. And then I'm just going to clip that right on to that side. Now with this side, with our zipper, you want to open your zipper before you do your tabs, and I just open mine, and then I will line up my zipper and I put a clip, and I'll show you how I did that. So I just line it up, and then I just put a clip right there. All right, and then what I do, I'm gonna put everything over here, and then I'm gonna line it up and stitch it. Again, you won't have to do a back stitch for this. It's just more of a basting stitch to hold it in place. And so I'm just folding it over in half. And you want the raw ends, not the folded end. The folded end should be towards on the bag. The raw edges should be towards the end of the bag, like where the extra zipper is. And then I am going to make sure it is centered with my zipper. I'm going to hold it in place, put it underneath my foot here, and I am just adjusting it a little bit more. And I'm just lining it up right on the edge of the bag. And I'm just going to do a stitch there. Once I have it where I want it, then I'm going to go ahead, and you want to take your time with this. You don't want to go fast because you can hit that your zipper teeth and break your needle. So just take your time. Okay, and just so, and see that one, if I would have been going fast, definitely would have broken a needle. So just take your time. All right. And then you are good. On that side, you can take your clip off, and then we're going to turn the bag around and then do the same with the other tab. All right, so I have that one in place. I'm going to go ahead and remove my clip, make sure that's still centered. So I'm centering the tab with the zipper based on the zipper teeth. And I put that right at the edge, and then I'm just stitch across slowly. When you get to that zipper, just take your time, because I don't want you blaming me for breaking a needle, okay? All right. So now that is done, on to the next step. And I am going to cut my threads here. And here. All right, so now we have our tabs on there. So you should have the folded part should be facing towards the bag. The raw edge should be facing towards that extra part of your zipper. And I'm gonna just go ahead and now cut off that zipper. But again, make sure when you're putting your tabs on that you open your bag, you unzip it enough. All right. So now we're going to take our bag is like this. Our main panels, our lining panels. We're going to take our main panels and put them together, and our lining panels and put them together. And you just want to make sure everything is lined up. Then you could start clipping or pinning into place. And I'm just using the 3 clips, one at each end and then one in the center. And then I'm going to turn it over and do the exact same thing with the lining pieces. Line those up. And clip them together. So your bag should now look like this. Your 2 lining pieces together, your 2 main panel pieces together. And we're gonna just sew straight across, okay? And I'm gonna do mine at a 3/8. Just looking at my my machine guide. So I'm gonna just line them up, and actually let me do it this way. All right. Just get everything lined up. Once I have it all lined up, then we are going to back stitch. And just do that stitch straight down the length of your bag. All right, and then we're going to do the same for the main panels. Get everything lined up. All right, and then go ahead and back stitch at the beginning and at the end, and then just run it on down the length of the bag. All right, we are done there, and of course we gotta clip our threads. You're gonna be doing a lot of clipping threads during this process. And I will also be doing another tutorial showing you how I also do my tote bags as well. And if you wanted to, I can do a additional tutorial showing you how to use the other, like the larger template that I showed you for the boxy bags. That way, if you want to kind of speed up your production, that is a good fast way to do it. Okay, so now our bag is looking like this. You should have, both of these should be sewn together, the ends, just the ends, okay? And what I like to do is flatten my seam just on the panel part where I quilted it. I'm not gonna worry about that. I'm actually gonna cut that piece down. But let me make sure that you can see. So I am going to open, and actually let me do it this way, the length of my mat. So I like to just do a light finger press, and then I'll run over it with the iron. So just to kind of open it up. And so this is the part that's going to lay in the bottom of your bag. And so this part is normally where people sew the bags down and then leave a gap here and then turn it in, or turn it right side out through that gap there. And then you go back in and then you sew, you stitch it together, the lining, and then put it back in the bag. I don't like that look. I don't like that little, you could see those stitches unless you are doing an invisible stitch, which takes too much time because you have to do that by hand. So I just found doing it with French seams is just, it turns out really clean and finished, and it just looks really good on the inside. You don't have additional stitches showing at the bottom of the bag. All right, so I just press that open because when I do turn the bag right side out, I want to make sure that it does lay flat. Now we will press it again once we get to that point, but just to show you how I do it and why I do it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and trim this down very close to where I stitched, but just want to make sure that you don't cut your thread. All right. So now we are going to get our bag together and box our corners. So right now your bag is like this, okay? Make sure your zipper is open. You don't have to have it all the way open, but at least halfway for this part. So you're gonna take your bag and we're going to find our center. So you want to take your lining piece and you're gonna line it up with I use my zipper as my guide, and then you're going to take that end piece, or that not the outer end piece, the main fabric, the main piece is what I meant. And then I'm just gonna make sure that lines up. And I am going to clip all the layers together. Okay, so you're gonna sandwich it like that. Okay, so you just wanna make sure you find the center piece. So you're gonna just take this piece and line it up with your zipper, and then you're going to take this piece and line it up with your zipper. Okay, and so I'm just doing the same with the other side, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and clip that. All right, and then let me just lay my bag down, smooth it out. And so your bag should now look like this. It's starting to form. The Boxy bag is starting to form. All right, so let me just move that over there. And now we are going to box our corners. So I am going to use my ruler and my marker. So I got these rulers from Amazon. It came like in a pack with a bunch of them. And this was the size that I like, the size that works for me. And I feel like if you box your corners, if you make them too big, it shrinks your bag, and it could kind of make it look uneven. So I like to stick with, this is 1 3/4. I would say anywhere from 1.5 to 2 by 2 is usually what I like to work with, depending on the size of the bag. If the bag is larger, like my tote bags, I do that one in a 2 by 2, but this one, 1 1/4 works perfect. So you're just gonna line it up right on the edges, and then you're gonna go ahead and use your marker to draw your square. Then I just lay everything flat, and same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and mark my corners. And as far as marking and cutting your corners, I just do all my layers together, but you can mark them individually and then cut them each individually. So I'll show you what I mean when I cut mine in just one moment. Okay, so it should look like this. You should have your squares on each corner, and if you want to go ahead and do it on the other side, and mark your squares and then cut one layer and then cut the other layer, you can. I just cut mine together. So I'm just flattening everything out, and then I'm just going to cut right on that line. And you're just going to do that for every corner. And now your bag is going to start to look like an actual Boxy bag. All right, and last corner. Okay. Now our bag is going to look like this. All right, so we are almost there. There's only about 3 steps left. So So that's how your bag should look. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do a straight stitch just right here on each side. Okay. So we're going to sew those layers together. And I'm going about 3/8 again. And just lining everything up, making sure that, you know, we got all the layers, and forward stitch, back stitch. For back stitch at the beginning and the end is what I was trying to say. And let's go ahead and get this done. Now this part, when you get to that center part, you want to slow down. I also like to use a stiletto just to make sure like everything stays down and, you know, nothing gets off track or anything like that. So when I get to that center point, one, I'm going to slow down because we are going to be going over the needle, and I'm going to just use my stiletto to hold everything. And here's where I'm going to slow down. And I almost broke a needle. So, and I think I did break my needle. I broke my needle. Dang it. Okay, so let me see here how I'm gonna do this, because I'm not gonna be able to okay. Give me one moment. Let me fix this and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got everything fixed and now we are ready to turn our bag right side out so then we can finish up our corners. So now this is why I don't leave a hole in the lining. You can do that. But again, we're doing the French seam method. And so now what we're going to do is go ahead and start to turn our bag out. I like to start with one of the corners from the lining. And I just take it and start pushing my bag through that corner. So you're just going to kind of push and lightly pull, push and lightly pull. And it should take you less than a minute. It's annoying, but you got to birth your bag so we can get the right side out. And then I'm going to iron. So now our bag is starting to look like a boxy bag. And I'm just going to double check my seams, make sure I caught everything. Okay, we're good with my needle breaking and all that good stuff. Okay, so now what I like to do is go ahead and smooth everything out, and then I'm just going to give it a press, the inside of the bag. And I'm also going to go over that seam. That's why I pressed it open, so it'll lay flat in the bag. And so my seam lays really flat. And then I'm just going to get the side. And then I'm going to do the other side. And I'm also going to lightly, with the steam on, just go over the outer piece of the bag, but I'm not going to like crease it or press it, especially on these ends here. Right here, you don't want to press these down. Otherwise, when you open up your bag, you're going to have a crease that's going to be permanently in your bag. So don't press this part down, these ends here. Just kind of lightly press with your steam on if your fabric is wrinkled from turning the bag right side out. All right, so now we're going to put our handle on if you're adding a handle. And I like to put my handle on the end where the zipper is going to be closed. And just had a couple pieces of thread there. All right, so you're going to, and I'm going to give you a close-up. So I'm going to go ahead and clip this on. I had a little piece of thread on here that was sticking out. Okay. So we're going to take our ends, and then we're going to take our tab, and where your middle seam is, I'm just putting it together to show you. This seam here is what I'm using as my guide to center my handle. And I'll give you a close-up and I'm just making sure I'm grabbing the lining fabric and kind of stretching everything, making sure everything is nice and straight and flat. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put my handle on one end and clip it. And then I'm gonna put it on the other end, right at the end, and clip it. So this is how yours should look. So it should look just like that. I'm using that seam there to line it up so it's in the center, and I'm just clipping it right on the edge, and I'm just going to do a stitch right on the edge of each end. So I hope you saw that good, but that is how it would look. And then I'm going to go ahead and move the bottom part out the way. And I'm gonna just do a stitch. You don't even have to back stitch. This is just like a basting stitch just to hold it in place. And just making sure it's even. And I'm gonna just go right across. All right, and cut that thread. Okay, so my camera died when I was putting on the handle of my last video, and I had to make another boxy bag, so I'm like, okay, let me just pick up from where I left off. So I did actually finish the other bag, but I'm going to show you how to finish boxing your corners and make your French seams, and then we will be done. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and do the other part of the handle. Just do that, just a basting stitch basically. And oops, there we go. And I'm just holding my handle, making sure that it doesn't shift or get crooked or anything like that. And I'm just gonna stitch straight across and cut my thread. And now we get to start boxing our corners. Okay, so I'm gonna just set that one over there for now. So now your bag is going to look like this. You have your handle on there now. And so your bag is getting there. It's getting there. We're almost there. Okay, and so now we are going to need our scissors and our clips. Okay, so we're going to start boxing our corners. So I'm just going to take it and I'm going to pull, make sure everything's like smoothed out. And if there's any extra like there is here, I'm just going to trim that down. Okay, just wanted to make sure that was straight. And then now I'm going to trim that down and clip it. And I'll show you in just a moment. Okay, this one has just a little bit overage. All right, And then we'll go on to the other side of the bag. Okay. Clip that. And then this last one here, I'm just holding it in place and then just cutting that extra. I didn't do a great job at cutting that extra, so let me go back over that. Okay, that looks good. Throw all these scraps away. Okay, so now this is how your bag is going to look. It's going to look kind of funny. So you're going to have each of your 4 corners clipped together. So you're clipping both of them together because we're going to then just do a stitch, a straight stitch on down. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that at a 3, let's see, am I going to go 3/8? Yeah, 3/8 inch seam allowance, and you want to back stitch when you start and you stop. And just going ahead and cutting my threads as I go. And you're going to do this for every corner. Just make sure you got everything lined up. Get your seam allowance where it needs to be. And just stitch straight down. And then the last 2, and then we'll go on to making our French seams and finishing our bag off. All right, and one more. Okay, so now that we've got that all done, this is how your bag should be looking. Okay, this is how the bag is going to be looking right now. So what I'm going to do is get as close as I can to that thread and trim this down before I go in to do my French seam. And my fabric and thread choice makes it a little bit hard to see. And we are also going to check our seams before we do our French seam, just to make sure all the layers were in fact stitched together. Yeah, if you don't have a pair of Ginger scissors, you are missing out. These scissors cut through layers, like multiple thick layers. Okay, and I'm just kind of feeling here, making sure that there's no holes or like no gaps where I might have missed. And now, oh, before I turn it inside out, let me just show you. So I did cut mine pretty close to the edge. So if you could see that there, so that's how your corners should look. And then we'll turn our bag inside out. And let me just grab my little corner poker tool, and I'm going to check my seams as I'm poking them out, because if there is something showing, I can go back and correct that now. You don't want to finish your French seam and notice that there is something that's still showing. You're not going to be able to go back. Well, unless you do a lot of seam ripping, you can. All right, and then our last corner. Okay, so that looks good. So right now, this is how we're looking on the inside. But remember, we have those raw seams on the outside. So this is going to enclose it and make it a French seam. I'm just going to go in with my tool here, my poker, just so I can make sure my corners are out really good, because I love to make sure that when you set your bag down, that those corners are on point. Okay, so now I'm going to grab 4 clips, and now you're just going to take it, just smooth it out, and you just want to line it up so that seam is in the middle, and then you just want to clip, and then you're just going to do that for each side. Get that seam right and clip. Get your seam lined up and clip, and then what we'll do is we're going to do a stitch, and we want to make sure that we enclose that raw edge. Okay, and so I normally do mine at about 3/8. You can do a bigger seam allowance depending on how much. You just want to make sure your seam allowance is enough to cover up that raw edge. Okay, so your bag should be looking like this right now. Okay, so let me get mine lined up. Yeah, I'm gonna do 3/8. That would be good for how close I cut it down. And I'm just gonna stitch right on down, back stitch when you start and stop. And get the thread as well. And you want to make sure during this part, either use your snips or a lighter to make sure you get that thread so there is a really clean finish. Even though most people don't care about the inside of their bag, if you're making this for a customer, even a gift, if they get something inside or they just want to wash it, when they turn it inside out, you just want it to look really good, professional, and have finished seams. Right, I am completely missing my garbage can, trying to toss threads in there. Right, and our last 2, and our bag will be finished. Right, and one more, and then I'm gonna also show you the other one that I finished up, even though my camera died on me, so you can see how that one turned out as well. Okay, and our bag is done. I'm gonna just give her a press and get some of this stuff up that I got up on the ground, put that in the garbage. All right, and so this is how the inside of your bag is going to look. And let me turn this one inside out as well, because with that being black, you might not be able to see it as good. But so your French seams, this is how they should look once you're finished. That is how the inside of the bag should look. So it just gives it a nice clean finish. It looks really professional. And then I'm just gonna turn these. Now this one I did not quilt. The customer didn't want it quilted, so I just use my heavyweight interfacing, fusible interfacing, and that was that. And I'm just going around and poking all my corners out. All right, that one looks good. I'm gonna do the same with this one. This one is really cute. I love this print and how it's like ombre. All right, and last one. So yeah, this one I really like how it like gets dark and light all around the bag. And then I like to go in and just press, make sure I have my seams in the bottom is flat. And so I just run my iron through the bottom, and then I'm also going to put that on the inside here and just press it out. Just from flipping the bag inside out, right side out, it tends to get wrinkled. And so I like to just go in and do a quick press. And same thing, I just want to make sure my seam at the bottom is nice and flat. And do the other side. And I do this for every bag I make. I just like them to be nice and wrinkle free, or as wrinkle free as possible. And so there are our Boxy bags. Now, let me just poke that corner back out and poke this corner out. Now, and you can see now too the difference between when you do quilt it and you don't quilt it. It still has stability, but and they're both really soft, but the quilted one is like, it's a little bit more structured, I feel like, than the unquilted bags, but they still hold their shape pretty good. And so those are our Boxy bags. That, well, the one I started and the one we finished with. But let me know if you do have any questions. I will have all the supplies linked below. And one thing that I didn't mention is if you are going to personalize your bags. Now I do have tags, so if a customer orders one and they don't want it personalized, I'll put my tag on the front, and I'll do that after I install the zipper. If they're getting embroidery personalization on the front of the bag, then I'll put my tag on the inside of the bag. So that is just up to you. And I always embroider whenever a customer is getting customization. I will embroider after I quilt the bag or once I have the interfacing fused to the main piece of the fabric. So basically I would, how I originally had everything cut out, I'll have that main piece, I'll make sure my interfacing is fused on there, then I'll go ahead and hoop it up, put it on my bag and let it stitch out, and then I'll follow the same exact steps. That way a customer doesn't see that stitching on the inside on the lining fabric is going to be hidden between those two layers, so they won't even see that. So the inside is still going to have a very clean finish. So like right now, I wouldn't take this bag and just embroider on it because it's going to show on the inside. I always do it before I put my layers together. So hope that makes sense. I did have a couple shorts where I did it showing embroidering first and then assembling everything, but yeah, everything else is the same. I would just do the customization up front before you start assembling your bag, before you even put your zipper on. But if you do have any additional questions, drop them below in the comments. For everyone that's asked for me to make a tutorial, I hope this tutorial helps. I know this is a bit longer tutorial just because the process is longer than some of the other items that I make. But once you get the hang of this, it took me, I want to say 27 minutes to make this. I actually timed myself because I didn't quilt it. And this one, when I do quilt them, it does take me, well, when I'm doing it this method, it takes me, I want to say about a total of 30 something minutes. I'm going to say 38, 37 minutes or something like that. But when I'm doing it with my long template, where I'm just cutting out the one piece for the main panel and the one piece for the lining panel, that one, to quilt it, it takes me about 9 minutes, give or take. And then it takes me 18 minutes to fully assemble the bag. And then it also depends on the size. I do have two smaller sizes than this as well. So of course the time will be quicker. But the more you practice, the more you make the bags, the faster you're going to get. Just take your time, learn the process, get your flow down, and then you can start picking up the pace and knocking them out. But thanks so much again for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial, which will be for making one of my quilted tote bags. So thanks so much for watching. Bye.